in the days after independence. He held the first 5 years an appointed position, and after that he was pretty uncontested. But not Modi. 3 general elections spanning dozens of flashpoints and some of the most bitter attacks ever launched upon an Indian Prime Minister, home and abroad notwithstanding. Modi is not just undefeated, but is still leading the BJP to victories at a time when politics, the polity, is fractured. Is it electoral math that makes him so successful? Is it propaganda or something more fundamental? The BJP says it's just down to one word: performance. Listening.
दशक में हमने समाज के सभी वर्गों की चिंता की है, फिर चाहे वो हमारे शेड्यूल कास्ट भाई हैं, फिर चाहे वो हमारे ओबीसी भाई हैं, फिर चाहे वो हमारे ट्राइबल भाई हैं, सबकी हमने चिंता की है। उनके लिए हर एक के लिए अलग अलग नीतियां, अलग अलग कार्यक्रम, स्कॉलरशिप्स इस तरीके से देने का काम भारत सरकार ने किया है। अब यहाँ पर मैं स्कीम्स गिनाना शुरू करूँगा तो एक घड़ी लग जाएगी, लेकिन ऑल स्कीम्स डेडिकेटेड टू एससी, एसटी और हमारे ओबीसी भाई, इनके लिए चिंता की गई। उसी तरीके से महिलाओं के लिए विशेष करके ध्यान दे करके विमेन लेड गवर्नमेंट, विमेन को आगे रख कर के बढ़ाने का काम करना, यह काम भी हमारी सरकार ने बखूबी किया है।
Clearly varied sections of the public trust Modi, they trust his model, and it is this credibility gap that Modi has over the opposition that is reaping him rewards. That's why on any given day, and especially today, the principal opposition party, the Congress, shapes its narrative with words specifically designed to erode Modi's credibility. Siddaramaiah, the Karnataka Chief Minister, said, and I quote, PM Modi is surviving only because of continuous campaigning. What happened to Demo? Who benefited from it? He promised Achhe Din. Where are they? What happened to the promise of providing 2 crore jobs every year? He also assured the resolution of farmers' issues. What happened to that? Why did farmers protest for a year if their issues were being addressed? Unquote. Jairam Ramesh, another Congress spokesperson, senior leader, said yesterday, we had challenged the Prime Minister to have his first ever unscripted, undoctored press conference on the completion of his 11 years in office, unquote. Today, the BJP President JP Nadda has been fielded to meet the press at 12 noon to highlight the 11-year milestone, not milestone. Why is the Prime Minister still running away? Or is it taking time to prepare the questions and answers and find suitable persons to query him in a servile manner? Or is Bharat Mandapam not fully ready? Question mark, unquote. But the Congress, while critical of Modi, finds itself on the defensive when its narrative, viewers, comes up against the raw facts. And on this channel, on this show, I always present to you the hard facts so that you can get closer to the truth. And here are some hard facts that prove why life for the average Indian is better than it was under the UPA. You can't fudge the numbers. These are facts, viewers. Undisputable, well publicized, open to question. And they haven't been. The GDP size, viewers, today we are $4.3 trillion economy. India's economic muscle has doubled. India is now the world's, and wait for it, viewers, 4th largest economy, poised to overtake Germany and Japan by 2027. Per capita income, UPA, 79,000 rupees per annum. It's gone up to 1.72 or 1,72,000 per annum. Over 117% increase in nominal per capita income in 10 years. Low middle income to aspiring upper middle income now India is. Highway construction, just look at this. Look at the stats, they're on your screens, viewers. And the takeaway is from 12 kilometers a day, we are building 30 plus kilometers a day of highways. India now builds expressways at record speed, connectivity boom across Bharat. The direct benefit transfers, UPA 7,367 crore. Now it's 5.5 lakh crores, over 3 lakh crores saved by cutting middlemen and corruption through the jam trinity. Money is now going to the people. And they are thankful, and they're electing Modi again and again and again. Look at the number of toilets built. Under the UPA, 5 crore rural toilets in 10 years. Under the NDA, that number is double or more. Sanitation coverage rose from 38% to 99% under Modi. Jan Dhan Yojana accounts, 24 crore Indians outside the formal banking under UPA. Today, viewers, 51 crore Jan Dhan accounts, which means 51 crore people are within the formal banking sector. Financial inclusion turned into mass empowerment under Modi. There's electrification and power supply. You see the statistics once again. The takeaway is clear. 99.9% of households have electricity access under the Saubhagya scheme. There's capex spending at record levels. Yes, 5-time increase. Massive public investment to crowd in private growth. That's the whole idea. Foreign direct investment inflows, burgeoning. This is a vote of confidence in the Modi regime. India is now among the top 3 FDI destinations globally. There's a startup ecosystem, less than 500 startups, no unicorns under the UPA. 1.2 lakh startups under the NDA. DPIIT recognized startups, 110 plus unicorns. India is now the 3rd largest startup ecosystem in the world. We have a huge way to go. There's no doubt about it, but we're getting there. Poverty rate, 27% under the UPA. Just 5% people are now under the poverty line. Extreme poverty sees sharpest decline in Indian history under Prime Minister Modi. We haven't even listed some of the dramatic political reforms and the defense and foreign policy wins. No one is saying, viewers, and don't get this wrong, no one is saying that Modi is perfect. There's plenty to be done. There's also plenty that needs to be undone. India's GDP needs to grow at 8% for decades if it is to truly transform. The PM has to demonstrate greater will to push democratic reforms. There's also a need for greater institutional autonomy. Let's have an honest debate tonight, an objective one, but with those viewers who see themselves as part of the solution and not part of the problem. I don't want people sitting here motivatedly using this as a platform to air grievances that they have no solutions to. So let's talk to some people who have solutions, who can actually present a roadmap to us. And I don't believe that there can be a finer panel tonight. You can see them, viewers. They need no introductions. And I want to begin first with Mr. Gupta, who has served not only under the NDA 2.0, that is under Mr. Modi, as an advisor to the INB ministry, but also he served the Atal Bihari Vajpayee government, the NDA 1.0, if you like, viewers. So he bookends almost 2 decades. And Mr. Gupta, there are many today who say that while Modi has an undisputed connect with voters, it's come at the cost of social cohesion, they will tell you, curbs on free speech, and a compromise with institutional autonomy. How do you react? How do you react to some of these claims that are made repeatedly, not just in India, but in the Western press and, in the usual lizard lounges of academia abroad?
Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Rahul, for having me here tonight. I think we should look at what you said just now from 3 different perspectives. One, I don't think anybody quite expected that the Modi government would provide political stability. That is because between 1989 and 2014, the series of governments we have had, they were politically untenable, politically unstable, and including the Vajpayee government, which we know, despite the best intentions of the Prime Minister, the government never quite acquired the kind of stability that we now see in NDA 2.0 or NDA 3.0. That was because of too many fractious elements, and it was, in a sense, a far more complex structure than it is today. So that is one point where I think all the pundits have gone wrong, and that frustrates them further into saying things like there has been extreme polarization. Well, polarization is something which has always been there in India, and to pretend that the polarization we see today never was seen before is just not correct. So we have had either social polarization, or we have had economic polarization, or we have had cultural polarization, and frankly, polarization is a part of any free society, any democracy around the world. This fiction of a unpolarized society with a homogeneous political view was foisted on us by the liberal democracies after the war. And if you look at those very liberal democracies today, they are now facing political, social, cultural, and
we see
economic
that
collapse.
Yeah.
And lastly, the point which you made about free speech, I think it is one of the most laughable exaggerations of Prime Minister Modi's critics, that he has curbed free speech. The very fact that we are sitting here together talking about speech in the country under Prime Minister's leadership shows that that the assumption is wrong. If you look at the morning papers, if you look at what the critics keep on saying, the articles that those are written, and often they are written with malice, but they are there. I mean, I don't want to take names. Again, when it comes to foreign media, not a single foreign media journalist has been asked to leave the country or has been troubled in any manner, and yet they keep on going on and on and on about how free speech is being denied. Now, they have to come up with examples. When was the time when they were denied free speech? When was the time when Indian journalists were denied free speech? It's all very fine to claim that, this whole absurdity about Godi media and free media, and at the same time cry that free media is now suffering because government has cut back on advertising.
Right.
Well, I mean, government is not here. Government doesn't exist to fund media. Media exists to fund media.
Well, viewers, you got some straight answers there. Let me bring in Suhail Seth. We also have Mr. Kamal Sibal. Suhail Seth, look, I'm going to bring this a little back to the economic dimension. Employment growth hasn't lagged, but quality jobs have lagged. Core manufacturing as a percentage of GDP is sluggish. The government says private sector needs to come to the party, but it hasn't. Why is this? Surely there's something preventing them. I mean, businessmen don't lose out on an opportunity to make money. So what's going on here?
But Rahul, so I'm a bit surprised because let me give you facts. I'm not getting into hyperbole, and I'm not interested in favoring any political party. So these are the things that have happened, and this is real. 4,40,000 crores worth of leakage has been stymied, has been stopped. Who's done it? Narendra Damodar Das Modi. If you look at rural markets, they have shown an improvement under Narendra Modi. You already mentioned the figures about poverty. Let's come to the private sector. Today, if you look at the private sector, India was woefully inadequate in manufacturing. We had the poorest manufacturing facilities because Jawaharlal Nehru believed in a socialist economy. And Nehru and Mahalanobis, the combination, created the kind of distress you and I can't imagine. So where are we today? The fuselage of Rafale is being manufactured in India. All the United States stock of Apple iPhones being manufactured in India. India today is one of the biggest manufacturers of automobiles. I mean, where are we going wrong? The world's largest two-wheeler company is Indian. Look at the traction that Jio is causing. Today you saw the results that Jio has put in. You've got Reliance, which started Jio in 2016. which started with free. Voice was free. Never before in the world has this been done. And everyone's thought, oh, ARPOs will suffer, ARPOs will suffer. They haven't suffered. So let's realize that there is a lot of good that has been done. The guys who keep whining are the people who have a problem for every solution. Let me also tell you one more thing, Rahul. Narendra Modi is India's only elected Prime Minister. And now I know all these trolls will go after me, but I don't give a damn. Jawaharlal Nehru was selected by Mahatma Gandhi. Lal Bahadur Shastri was in a manner selected. Inder Gujral selected. Rajiv Gandhi selected. I famously said about Manmohan Singh and Sonia Gandhi, I said the tragedy with that government is Sonia Gandhi is in power but not in office. Manmohan Singh is in office but not in power. Today you have a Prime Minister who is determined. Do you want to stymie that? Because of your hatred of his success, you want to bring about negativity about everything that is Indian? Rahul Gandhi's political discourse is abysmal. He should be ashamed. He's the leader of India's opposition. These Johnnies keep complaining about the election commission. Then why doesn't he ask all his state governments to resign? All Congress state governments should resign, saying we don't have faith in the election commission. You know, you can't have partial pregnancy. You can't say that where I'm elected, the election commission is good. Where I'm not elected, the election commission is bad. But here's the thing. Narendra Modi should not be listening to this surround sound. He should be doing what he is doing, which is as follows. Who imagined digitization, Rahul Shiv Shankar, my friend? Who imagined digitization? Who imagined a gem portal? What is a gem portal? Today, if Rahul Shiv Shankar is in Tamil Nadu and wants to provide thermos flasks to the government of India, he doesn't need to bribe anyone. He doesn't need to curry favor. He goes onto a portal. The portal determines pricing. The lowest price, along with quality match, gets the offer. For God's sake, let's be happy with what we have. We are a country which is constantly complaining. We are cynical. We are whining. We are unhappy. But there's a lot of good that's happening. And let's start realizing that good. You tell me, Rahul, you've traveled the world. I traveled the world. Never before has India been seen with so much of respect and reverence. Of course, as Kanchan said, there will be naysayers. But who cares? You know, when a caravan is driving or when a caravan is moving, dogs bark, but does the caravan stop? No.
Are you being literal or are you being metaphorical? Because there is a caravan that barks quite a bit.
No, but I know, but I'm being metaphorical. Right. My English is tuned to being metaphorical rather than being, analogy-driven with the present circumstances. But on a serious note, let's cut Modi some slack. You talk about polarization. What polarization? You had all these Johnnies, half your colleagues from the media, jumping onto Air India One, having caviar when they couldn't even spell the goddamn thing. Why should that happen? Has there been any single charge of corruption against the central government? No. Has the union cabinet been tainted because of corruption? No. Where were we?
No, some people will say that's because the ED never looks at malfeasance.
Tell me, is the enforcement directorate a caterer? If you commit a crime, should you not do the time? I ask you a simple question. Half these jokers are now pointing out, oh, the rich are leaving India and they're going to Dubai. Those are economic fugitives because they know ki inki dal nahi galne wali. So my surmise here is as follows. Number one, you look at every parameter of the economy, whether you look at rural, whether you look at urban, whether you look at semi-urban, we've made progress. Look at manufacturing, where we were lagging way behind. We are now catching up with the world. You look at our geopolitical strategy.
I'll come to that.
All said and done on Operation Sindoor, the narrative was tragically done by an unhinged American president. I can say that.
I'll bring in Ayyar Mitra on that.
Sure.
But let me on foreign policy, let me bring in Kamal Sibal. No better voice than Kamal Sibal. Kamal Sibal, foreign policy is an area where the Modi government has done very well. That's the perceived impression. But we've seen a lack of support for India post-Operation Sindoor. Is India isolated? If it is, why? Why are we seeing this sort of hyphenation once again with Pakistan internationally? If we are wizards, if we can maintain our foreign policy and our relations and our equations? Or am I clutching at straws here? What do you make of it?
Well, I don't think we are isolated at all. All countries, but one or two here and there, and even those like Turkey, have condemned what happened at Pahalgam in no uncertain terms. Now, the point is that they have not directly linked Pakistan to Pahalgam. Now, this is standard diplomatic practice. Those countries will not directly do this. There's a long history to this, because there has been a perception that India and Pakistan are locked in this Kashmir dispute since decades, and that terrorism has flowed from this. But much more importantly, there has been decades, years of Western support to Pakistan. The West wants strategic stability in the subcontinent. And the only way they can promote this strategic stability is to keep alive the Pakistani military threat to India. Let's say the capacity of Pakistan to pose a strategic threat to India as part of a larger strategic balance. Because India then will become much too strong, and they will lose pressure points on it. And in this, mind you, both the West, when I say the West, I mean essentially the United States and China, have been working together. I mean, who allowed Pakistan to become a nuclear weapon state and give it missile technology? It's not merely China. And even today, what is the United States doing with regard to handling the Chinese relationship with Pakistan, which is giving them access to the Indian Ocean through the Arabian Sea and, of course, through Myanmar to the Bay of Bengal. And this is posing a great challenge to stability in the Indian Ocean area and the entire politics of deterrence. There is a long history of Western support for Pakistan. And in this, the Western media actually is playing the game of the deep state of these countries. They will not take a position which the deep state elements want. In fact, they will amplify that, and that is why you have constant criticism of India with regard to some of the things you mentioned, democracy and persecution of minorities and everything else. And in this case, the focus is not on Pakistan's military defeat. After all, we have given them visual evidence of strikes against air bases. Actually, we took this big step of attacking the terrorist hubs like Bahawalpur and Muridke. But they're not interested. Have you seen anything in the Western press on this? They're only interested whether Indian aircraft were brought down, and especially Rafale. That is this metric by which this will be measured.
Which is
and why are they doing this? Why are they doing this?
Yeah.
Because Rafale won over F-16s and Rafale won over the F-18s.
Absolutely.
And there is this international competition
Absolutely.
In this area. And if they can somehow destroy the Rafale's image as a superlative weapon, a military aircraft, then naturally they feel that the market will be open.
In fact, Hegseth, who's the defense secretary, I mean, not Hegseth, that other chap, Winterkoff or whatever his name is, I can't quite get it right, but he came out, the trade secretary, and he said, Witkoff, and he said, look, had you guys done business with us and not the Russians, you wouldn't have got under our skin. So they are extremely transactional.
Lutnick,
that's right.
Howard Lutnick
yes,
said that.
Yes, sorry.
Howard
yes.
Lutnick, who, by the way, is a hedge fund manager who makes his money by shorting stock.
Yes.
These are the rascals who are running America today.
Yeah, and
Howard Lutnick is the guy who was a hedge fund guy. Now, just what Kamal said, something very critical before Abhijit comes in. The Rafale stock declined after the false narrative was created. And
true.
That got a lot of visibility. That was corporate warfare. It was to encourage people and tell people that, oh, Rafale is unsafe. Rafale is not as good as they've made it out to be. That's the whole thing. And I'm glad Kamal has said that. Because that narrative now needs to come out, and it is coming out.
It is.
Look, Rahul, you can lie briefly but you can't convert lies into truth.
Okay.
And you have Abhijit, who's the defense expert.
So I'm
he'll
bringing
be
him
able to
in
throw
on
more
this
light.
point. Now Abhijit Iyer Mitra, Operation Sindoor was a visible humbling of Pakistan, yet India hasn't, at least from appearances, won the information war. Why is this the case?
Where do I start? You know, this is the direct proof that you need that Modi is probably a bit too democratic for his own good. All right. Everybody goes off on their own tangent. Everybody does what they want.
Now, don't say there's too much democracy in this country. You know what happened to poor Amitabh Kant. You remember that?
Look, I'm not saying there's too much democracy. What I'm saying is there's not enough cracking of the whip. You have all kinds of people going around saying all kinds of, honestly, treasonous stuff. Utter rubbish. Rubbish is fine, but the treason is not. And, you know, they're just allowed to do what they want. Do you remember, Rahul, when there was opposition to the Kudangulam nuclear reactor?
Yeah, I remember.
10,000 sedition cases were filed in one day. Do you still have the visuals of the Tamil Nadu police going and beating up those protesters black and blue on the beaches around near Mahabalipuram?
Yeah.
I think people have forgotten that, right? And I think this is actually a great fault of the government that they don't use force enough when required. You know, sometimes it is required for public order. The Shaheen Bagh protests that were inconveniencing Delhi walas for a whole year, where we were not allowed to go, we had to endure massive 2-3 hour jams. For what? For some Dafli walas to go around bajawing Dafli here, and that too Besura Dafli. I don't even mind if you play Dafli properly. But we had to endure Besura Dafli for a whole year. Why? So, you know, this is the greatest counter you have to all this rising fascism, increasing authoritarianism and all that rubbish. So we lost the narrative war for several reasons. Too much individualization of people who want to give out the information, too many interpretations, sometimes outright compromising the security of the state, which was allowed to go on without cracking the whip. But look, that is how democracies function. You tell me, Rahul, could any Pakistani YouTuber or news person play any of the proof that we gave of hitting Sargodha, of Jacobabad, of Noor Khan Air Base played on their TV stations or YouTube channels and stay alive in Pakistan? In fact, we know for a fact Pakistan promotes people who, you know, say pro-India things just to get close. They believe, like in Congress times, you know, when you could become a social celebrity, sort of an advocate for peace, Aman ki tamasha type, and get access to all kinds of security people here in Delhi. They're trying that trick, it doesn't work, but they are able to control information. Dictatorships control information much better. You are saying, let's assume they shot down 100 Rafales. Right now, I think, you know, going by the Pakistani narrative, they shot down 200 Rafales. Forget that we only have 36, but I'm stating here that they shot down 200 Rafales. In fact, their weapons were so advanced, they went through a time warp and landed up at the factory in Saint-Nazaire in France and actually bombed the Rafale factory. Did you know that? But anyway, that's what they did. But leave all of that aside. What ends up happening is, when you have these images showing you that F-16s could not take off, when JF-17s could not take off, you have made them sitting ducks out there. You've literally got them in your crosshairs. You know, it's almost like an ISIS hostage video.
True.
With a neck held to your throat saying, "Bhai, dekh main kya karne wala." And you still say you lost the war. I mean, come along here. I mean, what more can you do? See, this is a narrative playing game. And when the international press is railed up against you, which they have been for the last 10, 11 years, there's nothing you can do about it. Well, there's lots you can do about it. I think Modi is too much of a Democrat to do anything about it.
No, I'll bring in Kanchan Gupta on that point in just 30 seconds. I want Rajiv Mantri, no, not 30 seconds. You can take your time, Rajiv Mantri. I'll come back to Kanchan Gupta on this point of the narrative war and why we sort of fell short. But I have to ask you a basic question, Rajiv Mantri. You're a big advocate of the India growth story. Now, everyone is saying that we need to be growing at 8%. right, to become or grow at the pace that China grew for 2 decades, so that we can become what we aspire to become by 2050. Now, this is undisputable. This is not like Raghuram Rajan's number, okay, which is elastic depending on who he speaks to. This is now quite a few people have sort of zeroed in on 8%, including the director of the executive director of the IMF, etc. You know who I'm talking about. So tell me, why aren't we growing at 8%? What's the problem? Some people say a lot of reforms, we haven't done them.
No, so you enlisted all the major changes and positive steps taken in the last 10 years very well, Rahul, when you opened the show. I think, if I may, I can also talk about a little bit of what is remaining to be done.
Yeah, that's right.
And some of that actually also includes the government's own stated policy in areas like privatization, where we have not seen too much movement forward. So with the exception of the major privatization of Air India, we've not seen much action on that front. We are yet to see a kind of more liberal approach in terms of financial sector regulations. I think there has been a number of committees which have come and presented their views on why we need to keep liberalizing the financial sector gradually, but the direction needs to be sustained. So areas like that are very crucial, I feel, to getting to the 8% mark and staying there for the better part of at least 15-20 years. If we are able to, if we are to raise our economic output to $12 trillion and $15 trillion of GDP. So if we have to quadruple up essentially from this level, there are many things we have to do, and I think while the intent is there, the pace of delivery on those areas.
I mean, if it's apparent to you, Rajiv Mantri, that we really need to get these things done quickly, why aren't we doing them? I mean, Sohail Seth comes from a very different perspective. He says everything is okay, you know, we're on the right track.
No,
give
just
time.
Just to play devil's advocate to Mr. Seth, he was mentioning about manufacturing. The share of manufacturing has not increased in the last decade. That's just a fact.
That's a fact.
The share of manufacturing as a percentage of GDP has not gone up in the country.
And there's a problem there.
There is a problem there, definitely. So I think
what is the problem?
No. It's a very good point that. No, it's a very good point that Rajiv has made.
Hey, when I made it, you didn't give me credit.
It doesn't happen overnight. You need to set up plants. You need to set up manufacturing facilities. You need distribution. So please cut some slack. A manufacturing plant is not like opening a vada pav shop. That I open a shop and it starts doing business.
I never said that.
There are labor.
Please don't belittle or trivialize the larger point I'm making. I know better than anybody else that opening a manufacturing plant is not like opening a vada pav shop.
Okay, so there are problems.
I'm not saying you don't know. I'm saying normally people believe our
we have a government which has got 3 terms.
Have there been any
Rajiv,
have there been any improvements according to you? Since
there
you know
many
a lot about all of this,
but we need to do
you
more.
believe we have made any progress?
No, I think
everyone will reduce an argument.
You can never be too rich or too thin.
I never said there is no progress.
Yeah, he's saying let's not look at it as a binary.
Talk about India's progress.
Yeah,
so you're saying more needs to be done, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's what he's saying. More needs to be done. There is a certain degree of convergence there.
But on one of Rahul's earlier programs,
yeah.
I said MSME needs more support.
Yeah, but my worry
I said it
is
on his program.
But let me tell you, look, I'll be very honest.
Let me tell you, what the issue is. For how many decades have we been saying this, that MSMEs need more support? That the banking sector needs reforms.
Look, I mean,
privatization needs to happen. For how many decades have we been saying this? How many more decades do we need to say this?
Air India happened or didn't happen?
Keep repeating this.
Did Air India happen or not happen?
One Air India happened. We could have gone down the privatization route more aggressively. Somewhere we lost. Look, you see, my problem right now, and I want to bring in Kanchanda, there is a perception that, you know, Prime Minister Modi, and I think Ayyar Mitra sort of summed it up by saying that, look, he's not, you know, he's not that tough. Now, you see, the thing is, there is a perception that Mr. Modi sometimes wants the certificates from certain sections of our polity. You know, that people like, now I'm not, please don't get me wrong, and I don't want my head lopped off, but let's say Nupur Sharma, for example. You know, there was a perception that she was thrown under the bus. While worse has been said, and you know, there is a journalist who has been posting some very ridiculous stuff. I don't want to name names, but you know what I'm talking about. There is a certain need to appease this, that, the other. We rolled back the farm laws. I don't know why. We stood with them for a year and a half, Mr. Gupta, and then we rolled them back, and now there's no talk. There's the labor laws. They've been passed but not notified. Why?
Well, let me just add some points over here which I think have been overlooked. One, I will come to the Nupur Sharma bit later. When you talk of manufacturing, Suhail just touched the tip of it. Till 2014, we had a different mindset in government as well as in industry about manufacturing in this country. The license permit quota Raj may have been technically over, but most of India's industrialists or investors or so-called manufacturers, they were still mentally attuned to a system where quotas were fixed, where they were provided with protection from competitive prices, etc., etc. I mean, let us not forget that India had an awfully bad two-wheeler called Bajaj scooter. Now, I am not, I'm just taking a name at random. I have nothing against the company or the others. Now, nobody bothered about how bad it was. But since it was a protected market, the owners of that company were the greatest supporters of the Congress. Now, let us also come to the point where, what was once described as phone banking operations. Industry had got used to the idea of protected capitalism or crony capitalism, where if you sucked up to a political party, if you were good to the political party, phone calls would be made, loans would be sanctioned, and you never had to repay those loans. Now, they realized that that period is over. If you take money from a bank, you have to pay back that money. Now, I am not saying that every industrialist is opposed to this idea, but it does bother industrialists, and in a sense, this new strictness about borrowing money and repaying money has reduced the risk factor, in the sense very few industrialists, very few manufacturers would be willing to take risk today. And lastly, let us also not overlook initiatives of the government. I personally am convinced the PLI program, the performance-linked productivity-linked initiative incentive program, has worked wonders. We have the telecom industry booming over here. Soon we will also have green industry booming over here, sustainable industry. Now, where and how to further expand on it is a policy issue. And to government's credit, policy stability, which was alien till about the middle of till say a couple of years after Prime Minister Modi came in, because he needed time to settle down. That policy stability is something which we can really boast of as a country, not only as a government. And that is why foreign investment keeps on flowing in. Now, Indian industry needs to take risks. Indian industry needs to come forward. My friend Rajiv Mantri has a point when he says that little has happened by way of privatization. But I don't think privatization is going to happen in a big manner. I personally don't think it is going to happen in a dramatic manner, because there is always a political cost attached to it. And no government is going to factor in that political, do something.
No, but Mr. Modi said that he's more about, he's less government and more governance. So, I mean, you got to hold him to that promise also. He made that promise.
The policies, which if you look at all the policies with industry and investment which have come in, they have very little government intervention, whether it is foreign direct investment.
Okay, so look, this conversation we can have till, the cows come home. Very quickly, 2 points. Ayyar Mitra and Mr. Suhail said, both raising their hands. And after that, I want to go from the sublime to the sordid. So viewers, we'll be going to that right after these two gentlemen finish their comments. Yes. Quick.
Rahul, again,
my comment very quickly is,
one at a time.
Digitization
Yeah.
Sorry. Let Abhijit.
Abhijit Iyer, yeah.
Sorry, Suhail. So the point I was making was, everything Rajiv says and Suhail says are simultaneously right at the same time. Let's not forget, within the first 2-3 months of coming to power in 2014, they brought in labor laws, they brought in land laws, they brought in new corporate laws and things like that. All of that got waylaid by that suit boot ki sarkar government. See, now this is where any government in power has to make this calculus. Do I push ahead with economic reforms? What is the point of those reforms if I lose the next election and then all those reforms get turned on their
Completely
head?
derailed. Okay.
Right.
Look,
So this is a calculus I have learned. I have been extremely critical of Modi in the past, but I've learned, you have to balance politics with the reality. The reality is fine.
So you
They've
have
not
to
gone
sometimes
far
you have to pick your battles. That's basically what you're saying. Pick your battles. Okay, so I'll say it very quickly. I need to move on. As I said, from the sublime to the sordid. Yes.
Chidambaram famously said in Parliament that how will digitization work? It's working brilliantly today. Today, India is the digitization capital of the world. So cut us some slack.
Okay.
Jan Dhan, Kanchan talked about banking. Look at the unbanked who you've now made possible for them to bank.
Yeah.
I mean, steps are being taken. Yes, Rajiv, a lot needs to be done. Some may not have happened. But for God's sake, it's better that we have a stable government, a government that understands economic prowess and economic policy.
Okay, Mr. Sibal has raised his hand. 30 more seconds, sir.
Statements in Parliament.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mr. Sibal,
No,
yes.
You have mentioned the hyphenation between India and Pakistan. There is no hyphenation. It's Trump that made some loose remarks.
Right.
But no other government, including that of China, has talked about hyphenation.
Okay, look.
And how do you do hyphenation between what you had said, $4.2 trillion economy, and a moribund economy which is surviving on the basis of IMF bailouts? And look at the extent of our cooperation with the Western world, with the United States and Europe.
Okay, so
Pakistan
look,
doesn't have that
No,
at
so
all.
just to say,
viewers, that's why I assembled
just to say
this
one thing,
brains
Rahul,
trust.
I'm talking about the future, how we quadruple up from here.
Yeah.
And some of the other panelists are talking about what has been achieved. I think both of us have our own points which are valid.
Yeah,
I'm
they're all
only-
valid.
How do we go further from here?
I think that's one of the reasons
Absolutely.
why I've assembled this brains trust,
I
viewers.
totally agree with Rajiv.
So that we at least have a common point. We recognize that things have been done. If I had brought in X or Y, and some of those, the usual suspects, they would have started with Nehru, and we would have had a problem because we wouldn't have even got to Modi. So here we are looking at the future. We're looking at what needs to be put in place. And I think we've got a fair roadmap. We know that there are lacunas, and now we need to address them. Now, viewers, as I promised, I want to move from this sublime discussion to a more sordid one. Unfortunately, we have to do this on the show. But I want to put certain things in perspective about this mystery, this honeymoon homicide, as some people are calling it. Let me begin by putting this mystery as a whole that is now resolving quickly into perspective. First, this murder cannot be called, as some people have been referring to it, as something to do with Meghalaya. Now, those who are doing so are guilty of doing a great disservice to the people of the state, viewers. I have never come across any murder that has been named after a place. So a lot of people got very upset, for example, when COVID or when certain virulent antigens were named after New Delhi, if you remember, viewers. Similarly, we can't stereotype the people of Meghalaya. They have nothing to do with this murder. This murder could have taken place anywhere else. Second, then men can be victims too. And there are now several killings that have involved brides getting rid of the groom within days of marriage, either because of estrangements or because of greed. There are now also cases of wives colluding to kill their husbands and others driving their spouses to suicide. I don't need to list the cases individually, you know them. Third, marriage in India is an institution which is clearly under duress. No one wants to talk about it, like they don't want to talk about the previous point. But unrealistic expectations fed by social media influencers, and of course the real world are not being met in the real world. In this case, of course, The facts suggest that the bride Sonam allegedly plotted with her lover to kill her husband, Raja Raghuvanshi, and assumed that by playing the gender card or by playing a few tricks, her gender would automatically cast her as a victim. The Meghalaya police has done brilliantly to crack open the case and with it shattered a few notions that need to be challenged. First listen in to the Meghalaya police and after that I'll open this up, viewers, for you.
When SIT within 7 days has actually accumulated substantial evidence and has gone down there and zeroed down on the culprits. Okay, SIT just didn't go there and look for suspects. SIT went down there with firm evidence and knew who the culprits were. You know, after doing a lot of homework out here, they went there, and with the help of our counterparts, we arrested them. All these days, Sonam was underground. People also had gone underground, and yesterday, when the operation started, suddenly she surfaced.
Now, viewers, let me just quickly tell you what's happened in this case. You've been quite enthralled by it. I know because I see the traction on social media. A lot of people are talking about this case. Raja and Sonam Raghuvanshi tied the knot in Indore. Raja and Sonam arrive in Shillong for a honeymoon. Before he leaves, and he didn't want to go. Before he leaves, she tells him, you must wear all your jewelry that was given to you because we want to take photographs and this, that, the other. So he goes out with 20 lakhs or more worth of jewels. Can you believe that, viewers? And obviously he was going to dress up and they'll take these photographs, etc. Well, then what happens is that the couple trek to Nongriat village with a guide. The village headman recovers the scooty and informs the police that they've disappeared. No one knows where they've gone. Then cops track down the scooty owner and then they identify the couple. Search operation is then launched for the missing couple. Raja Raghuvanshi's body is recovered from a gorge and then they also find the murder weapon, which makes them all very suspicious because it was newly bought and it wasn't a traditional hatchet, so to speak, that is used by Meghalayans. So they realized that this was something that was done by people who didn't know the customs. They bought something quite new, which is also rather strange. And they did this to suggest that it was the Meghalayans who had done this. And of course, social media picked up that and said that, look, the Northeast, there are all sorts of people there, this, that, the other. And we know how that trope works, viewers. Then the wife, Sonam, surrenders in Uttar Pradesh, in Ghazipur. And she looks very forlorn. She's found at a dhaba or something like that. They're very conflicting versions of that. And she says that, you see, I don't know what happened to me. My husband was taken, kidnapped. I don't know what happened. We were robbed. I was beaten up. I'd suddenly been dumped here. But then the Meghalaya police pieced together everything and she's now accused number one. And therefore, we have to ask certain questions. And those questions I've already sort of raised. These are some of the people that she colluded with because she was in love, it turns out, with that individual called Raj. And Raj is somebody who she knew before she got married, and it was an arranged marriage, so I don't even know why she wanted to get married unless, of course, she wanted to rob Raja and kill him. So, if that was indeed the case, this is all premeditated, which makes her look even worse. So, I want to open this up, viewers, because there are certain truths now that need to be exposed. And I want to first begin with Advaita Kala. Now, Advaita Kala, this almost sounds like a Bollywood movie. Lots of little twists and turns in this. But what comes through is that men can also be victims. And this is becoming a bit of a trend. Now, I'm not going down the route to suggest that I'm not pandering to male, chauvinism and patriarchy. But I think certain truths need to be spoken because very often this is overlooked. This is overlooked. I mean, there is a gross misuse of the law now. We know which one. The domestic violence law, etc., etc. So pendulum, I mean, men and women need to be equal in society, but had this been a man who had done all of this, this would have been a bigger story. People have read a lot of different things into it. There would have been gender activists out there on the street holding placards, but no one is doing that for poor Raja. Why?
I think there's a shift there, Rahul. I think you must have noticed even with the Atul Subhash case, there was an outcry from the general public on the unfairness and the devastation this sort of misuse can cause. And that's why the new laws do have a provision whereby you can take action against someone who files a false complaint against you, and they can be jailed for up to 10 years. So it's not like the government or society has not taken note of the fact that men are being victimized as well. Are they being victimized at the level that women are being victimized and have been traditionally victimized? No, that's not the case. But what is happening now is certainly there is greater media attention. The law is taking cognizance of this, and society is taking cognizance of this. And most importantly, be it murder, be it a crime like murder, it's not a gender sensitive law. Whether you're a man or a woman, the law is applied to you in equal measure. And this is clearly a very diabolical plan. It is premeditated, no doubt. It is the kind of murder that it rattles you because, quite frankly, the fact that you can murder your newlywed husband in a matter of 9 days and have planned it to such precision shows a very, very diabolical mind.
No, I want to bring in Barkha Trehan on that point. I think Advaita Kal has made a good point, but I think what we are overlooking, Barkha Trehan, is that there is still a reluctance. If you look at things subjectively, the woman is given the benefit of doubt, and this is exactly what Sonam was counting on, that if she is found in a dhaba looking forlorn, looking worse for wear, etc., people say, oh, bichari, she is the victim here. Yeah. And in this woke world, in this world where you have activism at the drop of a hat, to even suggest that a woman could be a perpetrator. I mean, you saw the entire Me Too movement. There was a witch hunt sometimes even without giving the man a benefit of doubt. So has the pendulum now, I understand that gender rights, women have been discriminated against, but has the pendulum swung so obscenely in one direction now that it's loaded against the man?
Exactly. Rahulji, I would like to first start it with Meghalaya CM lauds the police efforts in the ongoing investigation, which is very good. Others should also join him. And now I will tell you what is it. It is, this murder is for money. It's a brutal murder and a cold-blooded, pre-planned murder, and it is becoming so, it's happening on daily basis. I am getting cases of such. Some come into media and they are highlighted and then we discuss. But there are many and many. Even the suicide rate is 3 times more. And if we add all these murders also, it will be 4 times. So the data is also very shocking. Even after Sonam is arrested, everybody knows that she hired to kill her husband and the boyfriend was involved. Still, I've been on discussions straight since in the morning and I have been seeing people in the panel justifying that the man did it, the boyfriend did it. Nobody is still believing that Sonam did it. Sonam was the mastermind. Similarly, in the Saurabh murder case which happened in Meerut, I was there for 2 days in Meerut where I interviewed Saurabh's family as well as the Muskan's. I went to both places and I could see the huge difference in what they were saying and how Muskan's family was saying, yes, we knew our daughter was very wrong at every time and she used to abuse, she used to hit, domestic violence, which you just now spoke about. And as soon as the man thinks about taking a divorce, the whole thing then rushes on, and then you hire a contact killer or you file allegations, fake allegations. So it's the whole system sucks.
The whole system sucks, she says.
The police reforms.
Okay, so let me bring in, when you talk about police reforms, let's bring in somebody who's extremely experienced, Vikram Singh, former IPS officer. I want to ask you, is there a need now to sensitize the police in a different way? And also, secondly, most importantly, do you believe that this gender card is now being overplayed?
Rahulji, very much. 2 eminent lady panelists have already reiterated that there is a preconceived prejudice in the minds of the police because that dates back to 1861, when always the men were in the wrong and the women were always right. With this presumption, you do not live with what worked yesterday will not work today. Obviously, you have to train, you have to reinvent, or you have to rewire the mind that even this is possible. What happened at a frequency, you say 1 in a million 20 years ago, is now happening almost on a daily basis. One would be shocked and numbed to what has happened and what happened in Meerut. But few investigators would believe, like the axiom of the British law, the king can do no wrong. Likewise, as we have an axiom, perhaps the woman can do no wrong. But the fact of the matter and the ground reality is, as Barkhaji, as Advaita ji have mentioned, that today the times have changed when people have become so proactive. I would say proactive, not aggressive, because aggressive, again, I would be branded as a male chauvinist. But the fact of the matter is that the ground reality has changed so fast that the investigation has to be gender neutral. The laws cater to the fact that whoever is the aggressor, there is an aggrieved, irrespective of the fact the aggressor and the aggrieved may be a man or a woman. But the mind and the prejudice and the preconceived notions take the investigation in a different direction, to a skewed direction. And therefore, that is where the supervision comes and the police reforms come and the trainings come.
Ashutosh Srivastava, you're a lawyer.
Yes.
What needs to change?
See, I think now the laws have to be gender neutral. We have seen the misuse of laws in many of the cases, a lot of abuse of process of law, whether it is, sexual harassment cases, whether it is 498A case, now Section 85 case in BNS, the new law, or it is domestic violence. We have seen that many a times these are misused, and many a times the courts have come to a conclusion, but one has to go for the trial for years and years to prove the innocence. And this is not only disturbing the minds of the people and the family, but also it is reputational damage forever in life. It takes long years to prove that a person was innocent. And see, these laws which have been made in favor of women are being misused. And on the other hand, if you see, even the women are being harassed in such a situation. Now look at the mother of this deceased person. Look at the sister of this deceased person. And in many of the cases, if you see of domestic violence and such other cases, even the mother or the sisters, they are also being made parties.
True.
So ultimately, even women are suffering with these kind of laws.
But the question is, viewers, once again, if the law has to change, it has to change through Parliament. And the political class, therefore, has to show the gumption to stand up for gender neutrality. And that becomes a tricky subject, because once again, people will say, oh, this is a Sanghi Sarkar. We all know that they have a problem with women, this, that, the other. And there is a conservatism at the heart of all of this. Viewers, we really need to think this through now. We've come to a point of inflection. Things need to change very quickly on the ground. I'll leave it at this. Let's ponder this. We'll take this story forward. We'll leave it at this. Lots more coming up on Palki Sharma's show, Vantage.
Presented by... This is News18 Network. India's largest news network.
Another update that concerns a couple that had gone missing in Shillong. We're talking about the Indore couple. Now, there has been a development in this case as well. Sonam Raghuvanshi is the wife who had vanished from Shillong during her honeymoon, has now been found in Uttar Pradesh. Late last night, Sonam reportedly called her brother from a roadside eatery in Ghazipur in UP, breaking her silence and revealing her location. Raja Raghuvanshi, who's the husband, he was found dead, remember. His elder brother, Vipin, has confirmed to CNN News 18 all these developments. Reacting to the news, the Meghalaya Chief Minister has also taken to social media announcing that the 3 accused, all from Madhya Pradesh, have been arrested so far. He's also confirmed that the woman involved has surrendered. By the woman, does he mean Sonam, is one conjecture that is also being drawn, and the operation he says, to nab the fourth accused is still underway. But even as the police call it a breakthrough, Sonam's father has rejected their version. He has said, and I'm quoting, what the police is saying is not true. We demand a CBI probe into the matter. Meanwhile, the man at the dhaba in Ghazipur in UP who helped Sonam recalled that she was crying and asked to make a phone call. We gave her the phone, he says, and then alerted the police.
धन्यवाद है जो मिल गई है, तो लेकिन क्या, ये तो वो भी दुख है और ये भी दुख है। अभी तो राजा के कातिल का भी पता पड़े। अब दुख तो है, मिल भी गई है, तो भी हमको तो दुख ही, छोरा चला गया।
मैं ढाबे वाले के पास पहुंची, वहाँ उससे रोई। ढाबे वाले से रोने के बाद में उसने मोबाइल दिया है ढाबे वाले ने। अच्छा। हाँ, ढाबे वाले ने मोबाइल दिया तो फिर उसने गोविंद जी को फ़ोन लगाया। अच्छा। हाँ, तो गोविंद जी ने फिर रात को फ़ोन लगाया तो वहाँ पुलिस पहुंची थाने की, वहाँ ढाबे पे, ढाबे से वहाँ की पुलिस लेके आई है। अच्छा। मेरी बिट्टी से अभी मेरी बात नहीं हुई, सोनम से। वो गलत दावा कर रहे हैं। अच्छा। वो लोग बिल्कुल 100% गलत दावा कर रहे हैं। वो लोग निराधार झूठ बोल रही है, क्योंकि वहाँ की पुलिस फंस रही है उस मामले में, इसलिए वो लोग ये दावा, उल्टा दावा कर रहे हैं। भाई हम क्यों करवाएंगे ये चीज? मैं आपसे पूछ रहा हूँ, ये बच्ची भी क्यों करवाएगी? बच्ची अगर ऐसा करवाती तो घूमने क्यों जाती? अच्छा, आपने फोन नहीं लगाया? तो इसके बाद में फिर हम लोग दिल्ली जाते हैं कि अमित शाह जी से मिलने के लिए कि भाई हमको सीबीआई की जांच दो आप।
जी, ये अभी जो पता चला है कि सोनम रघुवंशी आत्मसमर्पण किया है, तो इसके बारे में थोड़ा सा अगर जानकारी दे पाते, आपके पास जो भी खबर है।
आत्मसमर्पण सोनम ने नहीं किया है। सोनम के लिए हम लोगों ने फोन लगाया यूपी पुलिस को। यूपी पुलिस वहाँ पे पहुंची, उसको वहाँ पे सेफ रखा है, उसको लेके गई है। सोनम पकड़ी नहीं गई है। सोनम को हमने फोन लगा के बोला है, तो सोनम को पुलिस लेके गई वहाँ से। कोई पुलिस ने ढूंढना नहीं है, कोई आत्मसमर्पण नहीं किया उसने है, ये चीज क्लियर है।
तो लेकिन बात है कि
ना चला तो अच्छी है।
जी बात है, लेकिन बात है कि सोनम मतलब चेरापूंजी से आके मध्य प्रदेश कैसे पहुंची उसके बाद, आपको क्या लगता है?
वो सोनम बता पाएगी इस बारे में बातें, इस बारे में वो कुछ पता नहीं है।
राजा के मौत के पीछे सोनम का हाथ हो सकता है क्या?
अभी तो कंफर्म नहीं है इस बात में, सोनम बता पाएगी बातें।
क्योंकि आप वहाँ शिलांग में थे, आप मतलब ढूंढ रहे थे, पूरे मामले को नजदीक से देख रहे थे, बोल रहे थे कि जब तक नहीं होगा तब तक मैं यहाँ से जाऊंगा नहीं। उसके बाद राजा का सब मिला।
चीजें सुनो, ये कोई भी चीजें कंफर्म हम तक नहीं कर सकते हैं जब तक सोनम को जो है 4 आरोपी के सामने खड़ा नहीं कर जाता है। तब तक सोनम कंफर्म करेगी उनको, तो सोनम को वो कंफर्म करेंगे कौन था कौन नहीं था, सारी चीजें मैच होगी, उसके बाद में बड़ा आरोपी कौन है।
क्योंकि 3 सुपारी किलर भी पकड़ा गया है।
मैं वही कह रहा हूँ, उस समय सारी चीजें कंफर्म होगी, कंफर्म हुई नहीं है। सोनम के मिलने के बाद सोनम की सारी कंफर्म करेगी चीजें, सारी चीजें। तो सोनम को जो है यहाँ पे लाया जाएगा, कंफर्म सारी चीज करी जाएगी, इसकी बात की आगे बात बढ़ेगी।
लेकिन
कौन है
ये पूरा मामला जो है आपके लिए एकदम चौंकाने वाला है कि सोनम अब मध्य प्रदेश में पाई गई है चेरापूंजी से।
देखिए, ये चीज अचंभा थोड़ी तो है, बाकी इसमें भी हम लोग कुछ बोल नहीं सकते ज्यादा।
अब मतलब आप सोनम के मुंह से सुनना चाहते हैं जो आगे का बात है, या पुलिस के मुंह
चाहते हैं आगे की बात क्या थी, क्या बात थी, सच्चाई क्या नहीं है। ये मीडिया के माध्यम से तो बहुत सी चीजें ऐसी लिखी जाती है जो नहीं होना चाहिए।
नहीं जी, इसीलिए आपको फोन किया है कि जो होना चाहिए वो ही हो और आप ही बता पाओ, क्योंकि आप प्रत्यक्ष रूप से पूरे मामले से जुड़े हुए हैं, या पहले दिन से आप लगे हुए हैं, इसीलिए मतलब क्योंकि आपके घर की बहू है।
तो वही कह रहा हूँ, हमारे घर की बहू है, हम लोग इसी के लिए कह रहे हैं, जब तक हमको कंफर्म नहीं होगा, जब तक हम लोग किसी भी बात में भरोसा नहीं कर पाएंगे।
लेकिन कभी भी शक हुआ था कि ऐसा कुछ हो सकता है?
ऐसा कुछ शक नहीं हुआ, कुछ भी नहीं हुआ ऐसा है।
क्योंकि आप लोग ये मान के चल रहे थे कि बांग्लादेश तक उसको अपहरण करके लेके गया होगा, अब बांग्लादेश की जगह मध्य प्रदेश में निकली वो। 3 और भी लोग पकड़े गए हैं, जो कहा जा रहा है कि इस पूरे मामले के
पकड़े गए जो है वो MP में पकड़ा गया, इन दोनों पकड़ा गए हैं। और सोनम जो है सोनम यूपी मिली है, दोनों में बहुत अंतर है, 1200 किलोमीटर अंतर, 1100-1200 किलोमीटर अंतर दोनों में है। वो दोनों अलग अलग जगह पकड़े गए हैं, सोनम पकड़ी नहीं गई है, 3 बंदे पकड़े गए हैं।
सोनम किनके साथ बात, सोनम का बात किनके साथ हुआ था?
गोविंद के साथ हुआ था।
अच्छा, ओके। और उसके बाद आप ही लोगों ने कहा है कि मतलब आप लोग पुलिस को बताया या आप लोगों ने सोनम को बताया?
हम लोगों ने पुलिस को बताया है, सोनम रघुवंशी वहाँ पे है, आप वहाँ पे जाइए, उसको वहाँ पे उठाइए, उसकी सेफ तरीके से थाने पे ले जाइए, क्योंकि वहाँ पे जंगल में कुछ और मिलेगा।
Hello, Namaskar. This is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Tonight, we begin with a riot in the US, in Los Angeles, California. The images are quite dramatic. Protesters and lawmakers